The crystal city of Veltar glowed softly in the pale light of 3 distant suns. Elder Quinara stood at the highest tower, her body made of living crystal that caught the light and threw it back in gentle rainbows. Her people had lived in peace for thousands of years on this quiet world, where the wind was always soft and the gravity was light as a feather. But now their world was dying. Black ships filled the sky above them like hungry birds. The Korth Empire had come to take what they wanted, and they did not care about the gentle people who lived here. The Korth were warriors from a harsh world where only the strong lived. They had big muscles, thick skin, and weapons that could crack mountains. Quinara watched as another crystal home fell to pieces under the enemy fire. Her people ran in fear, their crystal bodies ringing like broken bells as they tried to hide. The Zelani had never known war. They had never hurt anyone. They lived by growing beautiful crystal gardens and singing songs that made light dance in the air. "Elder, what do we do?" asked Sephian, a young Zelani whose crystal form was still bright blue with youth. His voice shook like wind chimes in a storm. "Our defenders cannot stop them. The Korth are too strong." Quinara looked at the smoking ruins below. The Zelani had tried to fight back, but their weapons were made for shaping crystal, not for war. The Korth laughed at their gentle beams of light and answered with fire that could melt stone. "We must ask for help," she said quietly. Her voice was like the sound of crystal singing, but now it was full of sadness. "Who will help us, Elder? We are just one small world." "The great powers of the galaxy have their own problems." Quinara knew he was right. The galaxy was full of strong races who could help them, but they were all afraid of the Korth Empire. The Korth had beaten many worlds before Veltar. It took what they wanted and left nothing but dust behind. But there was still one chance. The door moved to the great sending chamber at the top of the tower. Here, her people had built a machine that could send messages across the stars. It was made of pure crystal that hummed with power from their planet's core. "Help me send a message to all the worlds," she told Zephian. "Maybe someone will hear us. Maybe someone will care." The young Zelani touched the crystal controls with his light fingers. The machine began to glow, and waves of energy spread out into space like ripples in a pond. The message would travel to every world that had ears to hear it. Quinara spoke into the crystal heart of the machine. Her words went out to the stars, carrying all the fear and hope of her dying people. "This is Elder Quinara of the Zelani people on the world of Veltar. We are a peaceful race. We have never hurt anyone. We build beautiful things and sing to the light. But now the Korth Empire has come to destroy us. They want the rare crystals that grow in our world's heart, and they do not care if we die too." "Get them!" Her voice broke like crystal hitting stone. Around her, she could hear the sounds of her city dying. Crystal buildings fell with musical crashes. Children cried in voices like tiny bells. The air filled with smoke from the Korth weapons. "We are not fighters. We do not know how to make war. Our people are dying, and our children hide in the deep caves, afraid to come out. The Korth ships block out our suns. Soon there will be no light left for us to live." She paused, listening to another building fall. When she spoke again, her voice was stronger. "We know we are just one small world among many. We know the galaxy has bigger problems than us. But we are alive, and we want to stay alive. We have knowledge to share. We know how to grow crystal cities that never break. We know how to sing light into new colors. We know how to make gardens in empty space." The message crystal glowed brighter as her words filled it with power. "If anyone can hear this, please help us. We do not ask you to fight our battles. Do not ask you to die for us. Just help us get away from this world before the Korth kill us all. We will go anywhere. We'll do anything. We just want our children to see light again." Crystal sang as the message finished and shot out into the dark between stars. Quinara and Zephian watched it go, a tiny spark of hope, flying toward distant worlds. Days passed. The Korth ships came closer to the crystal cities. Their leader, a big warrior named General Vexther, sent down messages telling the Zelani to give up, he said. They would all die if they did not surrender their world's crystal heart. Some messages came back from the stars. The kind people of Altair 7 said they were sorry, but could not help. The Council of Peaceful Worlds sent words of hope but no ships. The Trade Federation offered to buy any Zelani who escaped. But they would not send rescue ships into Korth space. Each message was the same. Everyone was sorry. Everyone wished they could help. But no one was brave enough to fight the Korth Empire. Quinara began to lose hope. Her people were running out of places to hide. The Korth had landed soldiers on the planet's surface. Big, mean fighters broke crystal homes just for fun. They laughed when Zelani tried to stop them with songs of light. "Maybe we should surrender," Zephian said one dark night. Above them, the Korth ships blocked out 2 of their 3 suns. "Maybe they will let some of us live." "No," Quinara said firmly. "I have seen what the Korth do to the worlds they take. They strip everything of value and leave nothing alive. We will not surrender." But in her crystal heart, she wondered if fighting was just another way to die then. On the 7th day after their message went out, something strange happened. A new signal came from a part of the galaxy that most people never visited. It was from a small blue world called Earth, far away in a quiet arm of the star wheel. "Message received," the signal said in simple, clear words. "Help is coming. Hold on." Quinara stared at the message crystal. She had never heard of this Earth before. Most of the galaxy had not. It was just a small world with a young race that had barely learned to travel between stars. "Elder, who are these humans?" Zephian asked. "What can they do against the Korth?" Empire, Quinara did not know. But for the first time in days, she felt hope grow in her crystal heart, like a new light being born. "I do not know," she said, "but they are coming. Someone heard our call for help, and they are coming." Outside, the Korth ships moved closer to the last crystal cities, their weapons charged up to finish what they had started. But now the Zelani had something they had not had before. They had hope. And somewhere in the dark between stars, a small ship from a world called Earth was flying toward them as fast as its engines could push it. The people on that ship had heard the cry for help, and they were coming to answer it. The Zelani did not know what humans were. They did not know that Earth was a world of storms and earthquakes, of animals that hunted each other, of people who had learned to fight just to stay alive. They were about to find out. Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the blue glow of hyperspace flow past the windows. His ship was not big compared to the warships of the galaxy's great powers. It was built for exploring new worlds, not for fighting wars. But when the Zelani message had reached Earth, Jake and his crew had volunteered to help. "How long until we reach Veltar?" Jake asked his pilot. Amy Rodriguez checked her controls. She was a small woman with quick hands and eyes that never missed. "Anything 6 hours, Captain." "The Korth ships are already there, but the Zelani are still sending signals." "They're alive," good Jake said. He was a tall man with dark hair and scars on his hands from years of space work. Like most humans, he looked dangerous to other species. His muscles were thick from growing up under Earth's heavy gravity. Teeth were sharp because his ancestors had eaten meat. His eyes were set forward in his skull like a hunter's. Behind him, the rest of his crew worked at their stations. Ben Thompson, the engineer, was a big man with oil-stained hands who could fix anything that broke. Lisa Carter, the ship's doctor, was reading medical files about the Zelani to learn how to help them. Ryan Davis, their weapons expert, was studying what they knew about Korth ships. "What do we know about these Zelani people?" Jake asked Lisa. Lisa looked up from her screen. She was a calm woman who had seen many strange alien races in her years as a space doctor. "They're made of living crystal, Captain. They need specific types of light to stay healthy, and they can't handle much gravity. Their world has gravity. About 1/3 of Earth's normal." "And they've never fought a war?" Ryan asked. He was a quiet man who understood weapons and tactics better than anyone Jake had ever met. "Never," Lisa said. "Their files say they don't even understand the idea of hurting someone on purpose. They think violence is a sickness." Ben laughed, but not in a mean way. "Poor little things. No wonder they're getting beaten up by these Korth bullies. The Korth are from a high-gravity world like Earth, Ryan said, reading his tactical reports. Heavy muscles, thick bones, natural fighters, but they're used to straight-up battles, ship against ship, army against army, honor codes, and rules of war. Jake nodded. Most of the galaxy fought that way. They had rules about how battles should be fought, like old-fashioned duels. It was all very civilized and proper. How many Korth ships? Jake asked. 53, Amy said from her pilot seat. All bigger than us, all built for war. The crew was quiet for a moment. Everyone knew the math. One Earth ship against 53 Korth warships was not good odds by any normal thinking. But humans had never been normal. Well, Jake said with a grin that showed his sharp teeth, I guess we'll have to be creative. The Horizon's Edge dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Veltar system. Ahead of them, the Zelani homeworld glowed like a giant crystal ball. In the light of 3 small suns round it, the Korth fleet moved in perfect formation, their black ships like hungry sharks circling wounded prey. They're beautiful, Amy whispered, looking at the crystal cities on Veltar's surface. Even from space, they could see the light dancing through the crystal spires. And they're dying, Ryan said grimly. Several of the cities were dark, their light gone forever. Jake opened a communication channel to the planet. Hey, this is Captain Martinez of the Earth ship Horizon's Edge. We received your message. We're here to help. For a long moment, there was silence. Then a voice like singing crystal came through the speakers. This is Elder Quinara of the Zelani. You came. You actually came. The relief in her voice was clear even through the alien. Words, we said we would, Jake replied. Can you tell us about the Korth positions? I do not understand. Positions. Ryan leaned over to the communication panel. Where are their ships? Where are their soldiers? We need to know how they're attacking you. Another pause. You're going to fight them? But you are only one small ship. They have so many. Ma'am, Jake said gently, we're humans. Fighting against bad odds is what we do. The Korth had noticed the new ship. Their formation began to change, moving to surround the lone Earth vessel. A new voice came over the communication system, harsh and growling. Unknown ship. This is General Vexther of the Korth Empire. We'll leave this system immediately, or be destroyed. This world belongs to the Korth now. Jake looked at his crew. Amy was already plotting evasive courses. Ben was rerouting power to the engines and shields. Lisa was preparing the medical bay for casualties. Orion was charging their weapons. General Vexther, Jake said calmly. This is Captain Martinez. We're here to help the Zelani people. You can leave now, or you can try to stop us. The Korth. General laughed, a sound like grinding metal. One ship against my fleet? You must be insane. Probably, Jake admitted. Amy, take us in. The Horizon's Edge dove toward the planet like a hawk falling on prey. The Korth ships moved to intercept, but Amy was already spinning the ship through moves that would kill most aliens. She pulled 6 Gs, turning around a small moon, used its gravity to slingshot toward the planet, and rolled through an asteroid field that the bigger Korth ships couldn't follow. Impossible, General Vexther snarled over the radio. No crew can survive those maneuvers. Welcome to humanity, Jake said. The Zelani watched from their crystal cities as the small Earth ship danced between the Korth vessels like a minnow swimming between whales. They had never seen anything move like that. The ship twisted and turned in ways that seemed to break the laws of physics. How are they alive? Zephian asked, Elder Quinara, as they watched from the great tower. I do not know, she replied. Kind of world makes people who can do that. On the Horizon's Edge, the crew worked like parts of a single machine. Amy threw the ship through impossible curves while Ben kept the engines from exploding under the stress. Lisa monitored everyone's vital signs, while Ryan picked targets with cold precision. Ben, I need more speed, Amy called out as Korth fighters chased them through a crystal canyon. You've got it, Ben shouted back, pushing the engines past their safe limits. But I can't promise they won't blow up. They'll hold, Jake said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. The ship screamed out of the canyon and straight up toward the Korth flagship. The alien ship was 10 times bigger than the Horizon's Edge, covered in weapons and armor.
Are we
Going to ram them? Ryan asked, his finger on the weapon controls. Not exactly, Jake said. Amy, take us right under their belly. Ben, prepare to dump our reactor coolant. Sir. Ben looked confused. Trust me. The Earth ship dove under the massive Quarth flagship. At exactly the right moment, Ben released the ship's reactor coolant, liquid that was so cold it could freeze steel in seconds. The coolant hit the Quarth ship's hot engines and weapons, and the sudden temperature change cracked their hull like glass. What did they do? General Vexter screamed as his flagship shuddered and alarms filled the air. His officers stared at their screens. They used their reactor coolant as a weapon, sir. We've never seen anything like it. Reactor coolant? That's not a weapon. It is now. One of his officers whispered. The Horizon's Edge pulled away from the damaged flagship and headed for another group of Quarth ships. Behind them, the Zelani crystal cities began to glow brighter as hope returned to the crystal people. Quinara watched the impossible battle with wonder and growing fear. These humans were clearly here to help, but they were also clearly from a world where violence was as natural as breathing. What have we called down from the stars? She whispered to herself, watching the small Earth ship tear through formations. Of larger vessels with moves that defied everything she knew about spaceflight, she was about to find out exactly what kind of people answered when the galaxy's gentlest race called for help. The battle around Veltar was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The single human ship moved through space like it was alive, bending and twisting in ways that made the Quarth pilots sick just watching. Amy Rodriguez flew the Horizon's Edge, as if the laws of physics were just suggestions she could ignore. Incoming missiles from port side, Ryan Davis called out, his voice calm despite the danger. His fingers danced over the weapon controls like he was playing music. Got it, Amy, said. She rolled the ship straight down toward the planet's surface, using the gravity to pull them faster than the missiles could follow. The Quarth weapons shot past them and exploded harmlessly in space. General Vexter watched from his damaged flagship, his four eyes wide with confusion and growing anger. How are they doing this? Our ships are faster and stronger. They're not fighting like proper warriors, his second-in-command growled. They use tricks and run away instead of standing and fighting.
Ow.
Then we will force them to fight properly, Vexter decided. Send half the fleet to attack the crystal cities. They will have to come defend the civilians. But the humans had already thought of that. Jake, they're moving toward the cities, Lisa Carter said from her medical station. She had been watching the enemy ships on her screens while preparing to help wounded Zelani. Expected, Jake said. Ryan, remember what we talked about? Ryan smiled, and it was not a nice smile. The asteroid field. 26. Quarth ships moved toward the crystal cities, their weapons charging to destroy the beautiful spires where the Zelani lived. But Amy was already flying the Horizon's Edge toward the ring of space rocks that circled Veltar like a belt. Ben, how are our engines? Jake asked. Ben Thompson looked up from his controls, sweat running down his face. Running hot, but they'll hold. What crazy thing are we doing now? We're going to make some new asteroids. The Horizon's Edge dove into the asteroid field with the Quarth ships following. The alien pilots were good, but they had never flown through the kind of chaos that Amy Rodriguez could handle. She spun the ship between rocks the size of buildings, scraped past ice chunks that could crush them flat, and led the enemy deeper into the maze of floating stone. They're falling behind, Ryan reported. The big ships can't keep up.
Up.
Jake said, Ben, start overloading the mining charges. Oh, Ben's eyes went wide. Mining charges were small explosives used to break up asteroids for metal collection. They were not meant to be weapons. But humans had a gift for turning peaceful tools into deadly surprises. Sir, if I overload them, they'll explode with 10 times their normal power. I'm counting on it. Amy led the Quarth ships deeper into the asteroid field, weaving between rocks like a needle through cloth. Behind them, the enemy pilots struggled to keep up, their ships too big and clumsy for this kind of flying. Now, Jake said quietly. Ben hit the switch. All around the asteroid field, dozens of overloaded mining charges exploded at the same time. The blasts shattered huge asteroids into millions of smaller pieces, turning the space around the Korth ships into a storm of flying rocks. The alien vessels, designed for open space battles, had no defense against thousands of chunks of stone. Moving at incredible speed, their shields sparked and failed, their hulls cracked and split. In less than a minute, 20 of the 26 ships were dead or dying. "Impossible," General Vexter whispered, watching his fleet fall apart. They turned the asteroids into weapons. Who thinks of such things? Humans, apparently, his officer said with fear in his voice. The remaining Korth ships pulled back, but the horizon's edge was not done with them. Amy flew out of the asteroid field like a shark rising from deep water, and Ryan began picking off the damaged enemy vessels one by one. But the humans were not just fighting in space. Lisa Carter had taken a shuttle down to the planet's surface to help the wounded Zelani. She landed near a crystal city that was half destroyed by Korth weapons. The Zelani who met her were terrified. To them, Lisa looked like a monster from their worst nightmares. She was made of meat and bone instead of crystal. She had teeth for tearing flesh. Her blood was red like fire instead of clear like light. "Please do not hurt us," Elder Quinara said, crystal body shaking with fear as she approached the human shuttle. Lisa stepped out slowly, her hands empty to show she meant no harm. "I'm a doctor," she said gently. "I'm here to help your wounded people." "You are so big," Zephian whispered. Even though Lisa was small for a human, she was twice the size of the crystal beings. "I know I look scary," Lisa said, "but I promise I won't hurt you. Can you show me where your people are hurt?" The Zelani led her to a crystal hospital where dozens of their people lay broken and dim. Their crystal bodies had been cracked by the Korth weapons, and their inner light was fading. Lisa had studied Zelani medicine during the trip to Veltar, but seeing them in person was different. They were so fragile, like living glass. One wrong touch could shatter them. "How do we heal them?" she asked Elder Quinara. "With light and song," the elder replied. "But many of our healers are dead, and we do not have enough power." Lisa looked at the wounded Zelani, then at her medical equipment. Human medicine was rough and brutal compared to the gentle crystal healing, but maybe that was what they needed. "I have an idea," she said, "but you're not going to like it." She connected her medical power sources to the Zelani healing crystals. The machines were designed to restart human hearts and power emergency surgery. They were loud and violent and full of electricity. "This will hurt the crystals," Quinara said with fear. "Trust me," Lisa said, and turned on the power. The human medical equipment roared to life, pumping energy into the Zelani, healing crystals like lightning feeding a storm. The crystals flared with harsh light, but instead of breaking, they began to sing with more power than they had ever held. The wounded Zelani started to glow brighter. Their cracks began to heal. Their inner light grew strong again. "It works," Zephian said with wonder. "The rough human power makes our crystals stronger." While Lisa worked on the planet, the space battle continued. The horizon's edge had destroyed half the Korth fleet, but General Vexter was not ready to give up. He gathered his remaining ships around his flagship and prepared for one final attack. "If we cannot defeat them with honor," he growled, "then we will crush them with pure force. All ships, target the human vessel. Destroy it with everything we have." 27 Korth ships moved toward the horizon's edge like a wall of death. Their weapons charged up until they glowed white-hot. This time, there would be no clever tricks. No running away. Just pure firepower against one small Earth ship. Jake looked at his crew. Amy's hands were steady on the controls, but her face was pale with exhaustion. Ben's engines were running so hot they might explode at any moment. Ryan had fired so many shots that half their weapons were burned out. "We've done good work," Jake said quietly. "But this might be the end." "Maybe," Amy said, "but we'll make it cost them." "Always do," Ben agreed. Ryan checked his remaining weapons. "I've got enough firepower left for one good shot. Better make it count." The Korth fleet opened. Fire, all at once. Space filled with energy beams and missiles, all aimed at the tiny human ship. There was no way to dodge them all, no trick that could save them now. But humans had one more surprise left. "Ben," Jake said calmly, "remember what we talked about. If things got really bad..." Ben's eyes went wide. "Sir, that's crazy even for us. Do it." Ben's hands moved over his controls, and deep in the ship's heart, the reactor began to change. The power that normally pushed them through space was being turned into something else. Something that would either save them or kill them all. Korth weapons reached the horizon's edge just as Ben finished his work. But instead of destroying the human ship, something impossible happened. The little Earth vessel began to glow like a star. The horizon's edge glowed like a small sun as the Korth weapons hit it. But instead of exploding, the ship absorbed the energy and grew brighter. Ben Thompson had done something that no engineer in the galaxy thought was possible. He had turned the reactor into a giant battery that could eat energy weapons and get stronger. "What is happening?" General Vexter screamed as his most powerful shots made the human ship glow brighter instead of destroying it. "They're absorbing our fire," his weapons officer said with terror in his voice. "The more we shoot, the stronger they get. That's impossible. Energy cannot work that way." But humans had grown up on a world where impossible things happened every day. They had learned to work with forces that would terrify other species. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Jake Martinez watched his ship drink the enemy fire like water. "How long can we hold this, Ben?" Ben's face was covered in sweat as he worked his controls. "Not long, Captain. The reactor is running at 300% capacity. If I push it much further, we'll explode like a star-going supernova." "Give me everything you can," Jake said. He turned to Ryan Davis. "How much power do you need for the big gun?" Ryan looked at his weapon systems. The big gun was their main cannon, powerful enough to crack a moon, but it used so much energy that they could only fire it once before their reactor died. "All of it, Captain. Every bit of power we've stored." Jake nodded. "Amy, can you get us close to their flagship?" Amy Rodriguez looked at him like he was crazy, which he probably was. "They'll tear us apart before we get within firing range." "Not if we're glowing like this. We can't see through our own light. We'll be invisible until we're right on top of them." The horizon's edge dove toward the Korth flagship like a comet falling from heaven. The alien ships kept shooting, but their weapons only made the human vessel brighter. Soon it was glowing so fiercely that the Korth sensors could not track it properly. "Where are they?" Vexler demanded, staring at screens that showed nothing but white light. "We cannot see them, General. They are hidden in their own glow." The human ship emerged from the ball of light like a predator leaping from hiding. It was less than a mile from the Korth flagship, so close that the two ships almost touched. "Now, Ryan," Jake said quietly. Ryan fired the big gun. The energy beam that came from the horizon's edge was not like normal weapons. It was fed by all the power they had absorbed from the Korth fleet, concentrated into one terrible shot. The beam cut through the flagship's shields like they were made of paper, punched through its armor like it was made of wood, and tore the giant ship in half. General Vexter had just enough time to scream before his ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the whole system. But the victory came with a price. The horizon's edge had used all its stored power in that one shot. Ship went dark and cold, drifting through space like a dead whale. The reactor was burned out. The engines were silent. The lights were off. "We're dead in space," Ben reported, his voice tired but proud. "But by God, we took their best ship with us." The remaining Korth ships stared at the wreckage of their flagship. Their general was dead. Their strongest vessel was space dust. And the little human ship that had caused it all was floating helpless before them. "Destroy them," the new Korth commander ordered. "Destroy them now, before they do any more impossible things." But before the Korth could fire, something unexpected happened. The crystal cities on Veltar began to sing down on the planet's surface. Lisa Carter had done more than heal the wounded Zelani. She had taught them something new. While she worked with their crystal healers, she had told them about human courage and the willingness to fight for others. "Your ship is dying," Elder Quinara said to Lisa as they watched the dark human vessel drift in space. Your friends sacrificed themselves for us. That's what humans do, Lisa said sadly. We protect. The people who can't protect themselves, then we must do the same, the elder decided. The Zelani had never fought a war, but they had other powers. Their crystal cities were not just homes, they were giant focusing lenses that could gather starlight and turn it into energy. For thousands of years, they had used this power to grow their gardens and light their homes. Now they would use it as a weapon. The crystal spires began to glow as the Zelani poured all their strength into them. The light of 3 suns focused through the crystal cities like light through a magnifying glass. The energy built up until the whole planet glowed like a jewel. What are they doing? The Korth commander asked, as Veltar began to shine brighter than its own suns. He got his answer when beams of pure starlight shot up from the planet's surface. The concentrated light hit the Korth ships like hammers made of fire. Alien vessels that had seemed unbeatable moments before began to melt under the focused power of an entire world. But the Zelani were not used to such violence. The effort of turning their beautiful cities into weapons was killing them. Elder Quinara felt her crystal body begin to crack as she poured her life force into the planet's defenses. We cannot keep this up, Zephian gasped, his young crystal form growing dim. We are not made for war. We must, Quinara said, though her voice was getting weaker. The humans died for us. We cannot let their sacrifice be wasted. On the dead horizon's edge, Jake Martinez felt his ship shake as the crystal weapons swept past them to hit the Korth fleet. Oh, they're fighting back, he said with wonder. The Zelani are actually fighting. We need to help them, Amy said. But we don't have any power left. Ben looked at his burned-out reactor, then at the energy readings from the planet below. An idea began to form in his mind, a crazy idea that might just work. Captain, he said slowly, what if we don't need our own power? What do you mean? Ben pointed at the screens showing the crystal weapons. Those light beams are passing right by us. What if we could catch some of that energy and use it to restart our reactor? Ryan stared at him. You want to grab a piece of a planet-killer weapon and feed it to our engine? Why not? We've done crazier things today. Jake looked at his crew. They were exhausted, beaten, and their ship was more dead than alive. But they were still human, and humans never knew when to quit. Oh, do it. He ordered Ben open the ship's power collectors devices, meant to gather energy from solar wind and cosmic radiation. But instead of collecting gentle space energy, they reached out to catch the deadly crystal beams that were sweeping past them. It was like trying to drink from a fire hose. The Zelani weapons contained enough energy to melt mountains, and Ben was trying to feed tiny pieces of it to their reactor. One mistake would vaporize the ship instantly. But Ben Thompson was an engineer who had spent his life working with dangerous forces. His hands moved over the controls like a musician playing a song, carefully directing the deadly energy into their dying reactor. Power coming online, he reported as the ship's lights began to flicker back to life. Engines starting up. We're not dead yet. The horizon's edge rose from its drift, like a sleeping giant waking up. The Korth ships, already battered by the crystal weapons, found themselves facing the human vessel again, just when they thought it was finished. Impossible, the Korth commander whispered. They should be dead. Us. Sir, his officer said, with growing fear, I'm beginning to think these humans don't know how to die. The battle was not over yet. But now the Zelani and the humans were fighting together, crystal light and human cunning, united against their common enemy. And in that partnership, something new was being born that would change the galaxy forever. The final battle above Veltar lasted only minutes, but those minutes changed everything. The horizon's edge, powered by stolen crystal light, danced through space alongside beams of focused starlight from the planet below. Together, the humans and Zelani destroyed the remaining Korth ships one by one. The last enemy vessel tried to escape. But Amy Rodriguez was faster. She chased it past the edge of the system and disabled its engines with a precise shot from Ryan Davis, the Korth pilot. Sent out a surrender signal, his voice shaking with fear. We yield, the alien warrior said. We surrender to the Deathworld demons. Jake Martinez opened a communication channel. "We're not demons," he said calmly. "We're just humans. And you're free to go. But spread the word. The Zelani people are under Earth's protection now." The damaged Korth ship limped away into deep space, carrying news that would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The peaceful crystal people had found protectors, and those protectors were the most dangerous species anyone had ever encountered. Down on Veltar, Elder Quinara collapsed as the crystal weapons finally went silent. The effort of turning her beautiful cities into weapons had nearly killed her. Her crystal body was cracked in a dozen places, and her inner light was fading like a dying candle. Lisa Carter knelt beside the alien leader, her medical scanner showing readings she had never seen before. "Her crystal matrix is failing," she told the other Zelani healers. "She put too much of her life force into the planetary defense." "Can you save her?" Zephian asked. The young Zelani was also badly hurt, his blue crystal form now dim and fractured. Lisa looked at her equipment, then at the dying elder. Human medicine was rough and brutal, designed for creatures made of meat and bone. But maybe that was exactly what was needed. "I'm going to try something," she said, "but it's going to hurt." She connected her medical equipment to the elder's crystal body and began feeding human electrical energy directly into the alien's failing systems. It was like trying to restart a broken heart with lightning. It should have killed Quinara instantly instead. The elder's cracks began to seal as the rough human power forced her crystal matrix back together. Her inner light grew stronger, fed by energy that no Zelani had ever experienced before. "It's impossible," one of the crystal healers whispered. "Violent energy should destroy us, not heal us." "Maybe that's what you needed," Lisa said with a tired smile. "Sometimes gentle medicine isn't enough. Sometimes you need something stronger." Elder Quinara opened her crystal eyes and looked at the human doctor. "You saved my life," she said with wonder. "Saved all of us," Lisa replied. "Those planetary weapons of yours were incredible. I've never seen anything like them." "We had never used them for war before," the elder said sadly. "We are a peaceful people. But when we saw your ship dying in space, we knew we had to fight. You came across the galaxy to help us. Could not let you die alone." In orbit above them, the horizon's edge was finally safe, but badly damaged. Ben Thompson worked frantically to keep the engines running, while Jake Martinez sent messages to Earth asking for rescue ships. "How long before help arrives?" Amy asked, slumped in her pilot seat with exhaustion. 3 weeks, Jake replied. "Earth is sending a small fleet to help rebuild and establish an embassy here." Ryan Davis was counting the wreckage floating around them. 53 Korth ships when we arrived. 53 pieces of scrap metal now. Not bad for a day's work. Not bad for a lifetime's work, Ben corrected, patching another hole in there. Hull, but their victory had come at a terrible cost. The horizon's edge was barely functional. Half their equipment was burned out. Their reactor was held together with spare parts and hope. They had pushed themselves and their ship beyond all safe limits. "We should have died a dozen times today," Amy said quietly. "But we didn't," Jake replied. "That's what matters." Well, 3 days later, a Korth messenger ship arrived at the edge of the system, flying under a flag of truce. General Vexler was dead. But his replacement, Commander Zachrin, wanted to negotiate. Jake met with the Korth leader via video communication. The alien warrior looked tired and beaten, nothing like the proud conquerors who had arrived to destroy Veltar. "You have won," Zachrin said simply. "The Korth Empire withdraws its claim to this world and its people." "Good," Jake said. "But this is bigger than just Veltar. Word is going to spread about what happened here. Other peaceful worlds are going to ask for our help." The Korth commander's 4 eyes went wide. "You would do this again? Let's fight impossible battles for people you barely—" "No, that's what humans do," Jake said with a shrug. "We protect those who can't protect themselves. And the galaxy is about to become a very different place," Zachrin said quietly. "The old rules are over. When Deathworlders start answering cries for help, everything changes." The Korth ship jumped back into hyperspace, carrying news that would reach every corner of the galaxy within months. The peaceful species who had lived in fear of strong predators now had champions. The small blue world called Earth was accepting all calls for help. 2 weeks later, the first Earth rescue fleet arrived at Veltar. Captain Lisa Carter, promoted and given her own command, led 5 ships full of engineers, doctors, and diplomats. The humans had come to rebuild what the war had destroyed and to establish lasting friendship with the Crystal people. Elder Quinara met the new arrivals personally. Her crystal body now stronger than ever thanks to the combination of Zelani, healing, and human medicine. She'd learned to speak better human language during her recovery. "Welcome to our world," she said to Lisa. "We owe you everything. You don't owe us anything," Lisa replied. "Friends help friends. That's how it works. Then we are friends. Forever." Reconstruction took months. Human engineers worked alongside Zelani crystal shapers to rebuild the damaged cities. The new structures were stronger than before, combining human durability with Zelani beauty. Crystal spires that could focus starlight rose next to human medical centers that could heal any injury. Jake Martinez and his original crew stayed to oversee the work. But they knew it was temporary. Their worlds were already sending distress signals to Earth, begging for help against various threats. "Where to next?" Amy asked, as they prepared to leave Veltar for the last time. Jake looked at the message board. 3 different species were asking for help. Pirates were attacking trade ships near the Rigel system. A plague was spreading through the colonies of Beta Centauri, and something called the hive mind was consuming entire worlds in the Outer Rim. "Wherever we're needed," Jake said. Elder Quinara came to see them off. She brought a gift, a small crystal that glowed with inner light. "This will let you speak with us across any distance," she explained. "When you need help, when you are hurt or tired or facing impossible odds, call us, we will answer." "It's just like we answered you," Jake said, accepting the crystal. "Just like you answered us." The Horizon's Edge lifted off from Veltar and jumped into hyperspace, heading toward their next impossible mission. Behind them, the Crystal Cities sang farewell songs that could be heard across the system. The news of their victory had already spread far beyond the Korth Empire. Peaceful species who had never dared to hope were now looking up at the stars with new confidence. Somewhere out there, a small blue world full of Deathworld monsters was listening for their calls. And when those calls came, the humans would answer. They always did. The galaxy would never be the same again. The age of predators ruling over prey was ending. A new age was beginning, the age of the Deathworlders who fought not for conquest, but for the simple right of gentle people to live in peace in the depths of space. Another distress signal reached Earth. It came from a world of peaceful farmers being attacked by space pirates. The message was desperate and afraid. Captain Lisa Carter, now commanding the rescue ship New Horizon, heard the call and smiled as she opened a communication channel and sent back the same simple words that had changed everything at Veltar. "Received. Help is coming. Hold on." The Deathworlders were listening, and they would always answer.